Lizzie sat up in her playpen. It had been a couple of weeks since her mother had made the deal. The days were blending together. After all, each day was the same as the last. She was either in her playpen or in her high chair. She was even getting bored of being in diapers. Her day seemed to go from diaper change to diaper change. Still, Lizzie was not ready to call it quits just yet. Lizzie was very content. It was then that her mother dropped a bombshell. "I'm going out tonight," Sandra told her daughter. "Okay," Lizzie replied. "So tonight you will have a sitter." This piece of news surprised Lizzie. Why did she need a sitter? She was more than capable of taking care of herself. She was about to tell her mother so when Sandra spoke. "Normally, I would be okay with you by yourself. But you wanted to be treated like a baby and babies get sitters." Lizzie just looked at her mother. "So who is gonna watch me then?" Lizzie asked. "I got a hold of Kerry," her mother answered. Lizzie looked at her mother. The only Kerry that Lizzie knew of was her old babysitter from a decade ago. "Kerry?" Lizzie inquired. "Your old babysitter," her mother responded. Lizzie looked at her mother. She wanted to argue the point that she didn't need babysitter. Still, it was hard to argue. She did need to be a baby. She was not sure as to why, only that she is filling a need in her life. Lizzie looked at her mother and simply nodded in agreement. The rest of the day was pretty normal. Soon Lizzie was waking up from her afternoon nap. As she stretched in her bed, she heard voices downstairs. Laughter could be heard as well. Lizzie sat up in her bed. Were they laughing at her? Lizzie started to cry. She was not some freak that deserved to be laughed at. Was she? Lizzie just sat in her bed and sucked her pacifier as the tears fell down her face. She was just a normal kid who wanted something so bad that it hurt. Now she was getting that very thing, and it felt so good in so many ways. Yet part of Lizzie was not sure. She debated going downstairs and telling them off when she heard voices coming closer to her. One thing was certain: her mother was not alone. Any minute now and she would be exposed to another person. Lizzie took a deep breath. As she breathed out, her bladder emptied itself into her diapers. A second later and her mother opened her bedroom door. "I see we are up," Sandra said upon seeing her daughter. It was then that Sandra noticed the tears. "Have we been crying?" "Yes." "Why have you been crying, my dear?" Lizzie looked at her mother. Behind her stood Kerry. Both of them looked concerned, and Lizzie felt a wave of emotions come over her. Soon she found herself crying so more as she explained the reason for the tears. How she had heard the laughter and thought it was about her and how it made her feel. Sandra smiled at Lizzie and brushed her hair out of her eyes. "Honey, do not be silly. We were not laughing at you." Sandra started to explain. "We were just sharing parenting stories and having a ball." "Parenting stories?" Lizzie asked, and she dried her tears. "Yes," Sandra said. "Kerry here is a new mother and was sharing with me all the joys of having a newborn in the house. I was remembering when you were a newborn and sharing that with her. We did talk about your return to babyhood and Kerry is fine with it." "That's true," Kerry finally spoke. "I would never laugh at you, kid." This seemed to calm Lizzie down a bit and she was able to stop crying. After a quiet moment or two. "So now what?" Lizzie asked. "I am thinking you could spend some time in your playpen till dinner." "Okay. But first I think you need a diaper change." Lizzie just nodded and laid down. This was another test. She was about to have her diaper changed in front of someone else. Lizzie closed her eyes as her mother went to work on getting her into fresh pants.